Welcome to the South Ops Fire Weather Webcast for Thursday, January 16th. I'm your host, Kristen Stewart. Once again, clear skies continue to dominate across California as high pressure remains in place and light offshore winds continue. It will be another abundantly sunny day with comfortable temperatures and a lot less wind than previous days. Our long duration and seemingly never-ending Santa Ana wind event has finally concluded, and we finally get a much-needed break in the action. As is typical after the conclusion of a Santa Ana wind event, light offshore winds will continue this morning, mostly isolated to the wind-prone ridges and canyons of Southern California. Here are the current wind observations out there right now. You'll see that gusts are only ranging in the 15 to 25 mile an hour range for the most part in the higher terrain. Maybe some isolated 30 mile an hour gusts too. By the afternoon, these winds will become lighter and the sea breeze will very likely make its return to the coastal plains. In response to the wind shift, humidity across the coastal plains will increase a little today, though it will still remain very dry in the higher terrain and across the interior, with minimums still in the teens, as the air mass over the region remains very dry. Due to the reduction in wind, no widespread critical fire weather issues are expected. However, with the lingering breeziness in the higher terrain and the continued very dry air, red flag warnings remain in effect for the Santa Susana Mountains, western San Gabriel Mountains, and the Interstate 5 corridor through 3 p.m. After that, we get a nice break from fire weather concerns through the weekend. High temperatures south and west of the coastal slopes will remain very comfortable today, ranging in the mid to upper 60s. Some of the warmer coastal valley locales may even reach the low 70s. For the high desert in Central Valley, it will be a bit cooler, maxing out in the lower 60s. As you can see in this water vapor satellite imagery, the large ridge of high pressure remains in place over the west coast, though it looks weaker than it did yesterday. This weakening of the ridge is allowing the weak area of low pressure to its south to shift eastward towards the Southern California and northern Baja coastline today into Friday. You can see that low spinning right off the coast with the counterclockwise flow pattern. This pattern change will bring much needed relief to the region in the form of increasing humidity, a return of the marine layer, and a switch to light onshore winds. However, this relief is only temporary, as we could be seeing additional rounds of offshore winds next week, but I will get into that a little more in a minute. Like I mentioned, there will be a large increase in humidity as we get to Friday and Saturday with the return of onshore flow. Check out these forecast minimum humidity values for Saturday, a dramatic change for the better after the last couple weeks of critically dry conditions. Marine layer low clouds are also likely to make a return to the coastal plains, especially by Friday night. Light drizzle will be possible for the coastal plains and adjacent foothills with the deeper marine layer, but no widespread rainfall is expected for the region. With the switch to onshore flow alongside a switch in the weather pattern, temperatures will cool down quite a bit for the coastal areas for Friday through the weekend. High temperatures will fall into the upper 50s for the coastal areas, with even the warmer spots struggling to reach 60 on Friday. It will be slightly warmer this weekend. Model projections remain in disagreement regarding the evolution of the pattern for next week, so the confidence in the forecast remains low. Some model outputs are keeping persistent high pressure in place over the west coast, and some model outputs are suggesting additional inside sliders moving into the Great Basin and desert Southwest next week. Each of these solutions would mean very different things for our weather over Southern California, including strong offshore winds or very weak to no offshore winds. Looking at a bunch of model projections together, most indications suggest that there will be some extent of additional periods of offshore winds next week. There is a strong likelihood that strong surface high pressure will develop over the Intermountain West that would serve to force an offshore pressure gradient to bring offshore winds to Southern California. The question will then be how much, if any, upper-level wind support will there be to enhance these winds, as well as what the time frame may be. Due to the model disagreement, there is a large amount of spread in the potential outcomes, including strength and timing of winds, so we can't provide any details right now. However, there is high confidence in very dry conditions through the week that would serve to exacerbate fire weather concerns. The large fire threat will lower into moderate levels today as flow turns onshore and humidity starts to improve. However, very dry air will remain away from the coast and fuels remain critically dry at or near record dry levels. The large fire threat will lower significantly Friday into the weekend as humidity greatly increases, though this may only be a temporary improvement due to the lack of expected rainfall. Renewed fire weather concerns are likely to return if gusty offshore winds materialize next week combined with very dry air. Confidence remains low in the fire potential for next week as there is a large amount of spread in the potential outcomes. Make sure to stay tuned to the forecast as we figure out the details in the coming days. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Our next webcast will be on Friday, January 17th. Have a fantastic day.